Okay, you all good? Let's do it. Hello and welcome to the B2C Lead Generation Podcast.
You're listening to the B2C Lead Gen Podcast. My name is Daniel Hopewell here with Simon Delaney, and this is episode 114, Why Lead Generators Should Build Their Own Brand. Now, this is a subject we've discussed on the show before, but today we're joined by Lawrence Howlett from More Demand, who is going to help us revisit the subject with some fresh insights. Lawrence, how are you doing today? I heard you were working from home with the kids. You managed to get any work done?
Yeah, we've got some work done, but yeah, thanks for having me on the show. Appreciate it, and yeah, looking forward to diving into this subject, one that I hold, dear to my heart as a lead generator. So yeah, looking forward to this one.
Amazing. Well, before we dive in, could you just intro yourself and More Demand and what you guys do, just so people listening know?
Yeah, sure. So I've been in tech for 20 years. I am now midlife, and I haven't had midlife crisis yet, but yeah, maybe soon. I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure there's a sports car on the drive soon.
Is that what you're going for, the sports car? That's a good classic midlife crisis. That.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I'm not allowed a motorbike because I'll be written out of the will by my dad. And I've raced since I've been 8 years old, so a sports car seems fitting. But yeah, so I've been in tech for 20 years now, and owned a web design agency for the first 15 years after coming out of university. DJ'd a little bit on the side as well. That was more of a professional hobby for a good few years, and then sold that business 6-7 years ago, and started to build up my own brands of lead generation sites, and did that for a client of mine initially that's still a client. Well, I actually went out in London last week, not to sort of go off tangent a little bit, but I was like, oh yeah, we've been working together 5 years. And he was like, Lawrence, it's been 8. I was like, oh right, okay, yeah, quite a few more years more. So yeah, we've been building up lead gen brands like Money Saving Advisors. We're just launching a new one today. Look for solar.co.uk on the solar bandwagon.
What a time to have the podcast. It's just launched today.
I know, exactly right. So yeah,
so when this gets released, which is in 2 days' time, probably,
we'll be live.
Yeah, go and check out the URL. Look for solar.co.uk.
Yeah, look number 4 solar.co.uk. So yeah, we'll be live at that point, and that's yeah, where we've sort of got up to at the moment. We're really focused on. We have been focused on consumer finance for the last 5-6 years, and now just branching into the home improvement sector as well. So yeah, the focus has been mainly on consumer finance and building out brands in that space. And we've had everything thrown at us, from the Bank of England to COVID to everything else that's really helped the world of finance in the last few years. So yeah, we've positioned ourselves well to deal with recessions and upsides as well. We're in debt and insolvency, as well as in lending and the good time products. So yeah, we're pretty recession proof, I'd say.
Brilliant.
Well, that sounds like a perfect person to dive into the subject with. Then let's do just that. From your perspective, as someone who's built their own brands before, why should lead generators be building their own brands?
I think it's a question that I like to answer by thinking about the consumer first. So with my brands, I always think, am I serving the consumer to the best of my abilities, given my budget and given my resources? So for example, with Money Saving Advisors, there are some abilities that we don't have in-house necessarily to really take on national banks, and I'm never going to be able to rank for the word loans. That's just not something that I'm going to be able to do, and I'm not going to be able to build a really sort of online loan journey, because we are an introducer, right? We're not like a lender, so we can't do all the things that we want to do. So I need to be able to serve the consumer in the best possible way that I can, given the resources that I've got, which is why I want to, build a brand that people know, like, and trust beyond just, clicking on the ad, filling in a form, and that information getting posted off to a lead buyer. So what we try and do is have, instead of lots of lead buyers that we, sell, distribute, say, the same lead to 3 lead buyers, or, do things like that, we tend to try and find, or we find strategic partners that we treat as true business partners, so that we can build that brand together for that specific niche. So take health insurance, for example. We'll look at that and go, right, what does the consumer want? Well, first of all, they want a quote. They want to know, how much is it going to cost? That's the main thing on their mind with health insurance. So how can we get them to that point quick enough? And then how can we help them answer the other questions that they might have? Could we send them a guide? Could we follow up with them in a different way, other than what the lead buyer is going to do? I.e., put them into a dialer and hammer them 30 times a day over the course. They're not going to hammer them 30 times a day, but you stretch the point to make
40 times.
Yeah, exactly. They're not penetrating enough. So yeah, my view on this is that we really should be building a brand, because it's more than just a landing page. Then it's an asset that we have, that we ultimately can exit with. So I don't want to work forever, obviously. There needs to be an exit at some point. And if I've got a brand, that is an asset that I can sell for a multiplier. So especially if we've then got those strategic relationships to fulfill on all of the things that the brand is trying to do. So I always say to the guys, or any partner that I work with, would I be comfortable sending you round my mum's house? And that is literally my benchmark in the, or my thing in the sand to know whether I want to work with a partner or not, and whether they're going to serve the customer well. Because a lot of lead generators will work with anyone that will buy leads. I won't. Absolutely not. We have a really in-depth due diligence process to onboard. We ourselves are ISO 27001. We take all of our information data security very seriously. We take the way that the leads are worked very seriously. All the compliance piece, that because we're in consumer finance, that we have to do, and equally that I want to do, because I want to be able to serve that consumer in the best possible way. So that's really why creating these brands are more than just a landing page. They're about the entire customer journey, from clicking on the ad, what do they see, what do they think they're getting, to what they actually get. And not leaving the consumer feeling like they've been duped when they were going to get a calculation and they don't. So I think that's the sort of broader discussion around what brand building is about, from a lead generation perspective anyway.
Yeah, I think you raised some really good points. Well, it's interesting on the I had this conversation with I think it was with Michael Ferreira at Lead Generation World, and we were talking about doing multi-sell on leads, because he was an advocate of it. And I said, we just got into a discussion. I was like, why? And he said, because the consumer can then get several quotes. So rather than looking at it as the lead generator selling the lead multiple times, look at it as the consumer actually benefiting, because they're getting a real comparison. So I can kind of see multi-sell as a benefit from that perspective. But we're in 2023. Does someone really want to be sat by a phone waiting for 3 phone calls? Is kind of my thought on that now. You might want 3 quotes. I think it's to do with speed, isn't it? Like, I don't want to have to wait around for 3 quotes. If I want to know something, I just want to know it now. Like, if I could get it texted to me instantly, or a calculator, like you said. This is why we've spoken about like doing this idea of a reverse ping post. So rather than it going to the highest bidder, it just returns on a thank you page from like, I don't know, 3 or 4 different lenders, speak on the loan thing, and they would just go like top line benefits, APR, interest amount, whatever, and then the consumer can just go and then pick it. And it kind of comes to your point of like, what is a brand? And if you really look at brands, it's that, isn't it? That people find value in them. There's something like intrinsic that they relate to that they find hugely valuable.
Yeah, you've got to look at the big brands. So I'm never going to get to this level, I don't think. Great if I do, but I'm not pushing myself to get there. But Expedia is a lead generator. Yeah. They don't own inventory. They don't own aeroplanes. They don't own hotels. They're just an introducer. Yes, they handle the payment side of it, but they are essentially an introducer to people that own aeroplanes and own hotels, right? You can say the same of Uber. They're an introducer to taxi drivers, but they've built a brand around it. They have inventory. They have prices on their site. They have the ability to do the thing that the customer wants on the site. That's why they're wildly successful. So if you think of it in that sense, what we're trying to do is go, right, there are a group of let's take solar for example, and we're building out our network of solar installers. So if you're a solar installer, hit me up. But if you're a solar installer, there's roughly the same prices, unless you're an absolute shark and you're really trying to get granny's money. Typically there's a range of sort of 5 to 15k, depending on how big your house is, or whether you want a Tesla power wall or this, that, and the other. So you can pretty much sort of standardize those prices and give people a range. And then there's a standardized cost energy savings. So over the coming weeks and months, we're going to pull all of that into one as we learn more about different areas and different pricing structures, and we have different installers come on, so that we're just an introducer, but we're actually giving the quote there and then. Here's the thing that you want. There's the quote. Do you want it? Great. Johnny Electrics Limited is going to come and install it. It's that's the model that I think is then building a brand and solves two problems. One, it solves the problem of as you said, sitting there waiting to get multiple quotes, 3-4 quotes, and do you really want to be hammered by a dialer, by 3 different dialers all at the same time? It would drive me up the wall as a consumer. Yeah. So I want to go to a website, see a quote, go, yeah, I like the look of that. I'll have some of that. And then go to the next step, which is a home survey or whatever it is in that funnel. Then you can introduce them to that particular partner. But as a lead generator, you have to do a little bit more than just lead generate, because you'll get drop off. So you've got to have a team then to work the drop off to then get those people across the line, i.e. those that came online, put their details in for a quote, but then didn't do the next thing that you wanted to do online. You've got to have some sort of digital outreach, either some automation, SMS, AI chatbot, whatever it is, to then engage them and say, look, do you want your free home survey? Book it now, schedule it. Or you have, someone calling them back and booking that in as well. So there's a little bit more of an involved process, like going back to the Expedia example. They have customer service. So it's adding lead generation and customer service with appointment scheduling as the offer, and then putting that into a brand. And then on the other side of it, where the solar installers, you've got those that just don't want to run sales and marketing. They've got no idea how to run Facebook ads. They're up a ladder half the day installing, solar panels. They can't answer their phone. All of these things that they just, not set up to do. There are some companies that definitely are, that have their own sales operations, but typically they're not geared up for what I would call, a proper sales operation. Yes, they've got a couple of people in sales that do quotes and that, but they're not really a proper sales operation. So there's that side that you're helping solve by sort of almost getting the quote and the sale ready on the front end. All they've got to do is go and install the thing. So that's sort of where we're going to with these brands that we're trying to build.
What I'm interested in is, so it's funny when you were talking about getting in touch with all the installers. So I might have even mentioned this in a previous podcast, I can't remember. I have quite a lot of people that will ring me and ask me, like, how would you handle this? So I had a guy, it was for Windows or double glazing or something. He was a lead gen brand. And he just asked my advice, like, what would you do? I've built this landing page. So first thing I said was, your landing page is shit. You need to. So I said, well, what I'd do is get a list of every double glazing company in the UK. I know a guy in India who I can introduce you to who has Zoom info, and he will just download it, and it will cost you nothing. Put it into an email sequence in whatever CRM you're using, HubSpot or whatever, and talk to these companies. And then if you've got a sales guy, or even do it yourself, if you can get the telephone numbers, get all the companies, I'd just get in contact with all of them and find out whether you can work with them, talk about what the commercials are, what it is they offer, but a bit like what you said, whether you'd want to work with them or not. And he just, I don't know, he just wouldn't do it, or like, it just seemed like too much effort, I think. I don't know what the issue was in my mind. But what I'd be interested in is what's the process you go through to do that? Because I've just theoretically told someone to do it, right? Like, you've actually done it. How do you handle that?
So pretty much the similar way in, we get a list of target companies. We'll then filter by, company size, etc. So, we're really looking at, people that are turning over $250,000 plus. So we'll have a look on companies' house data, and look at the, directors' history, etc., and go, right, well, that's a good fit. So we then have a list of companies that we want to work with, and then Mike, my head of partnerships, will cold call. He'll cold call every single one of those on that list, and appointment set for both of us to get on a call with them. And then we sound them out on that initial call, and we have a due diligence process, which I'm just going to open so I can talk from what we actually do. So we collect, normal details. We look at their social media handles, their review links, what are their reviews on Trustpilot? Why are people giving them 1-star reviews? Is there a common theme that something's going wrong? We'll look at directors' names, see if they're linked to any other limited companies. Has there been liquidations in those companies? So all of those all of the stuff that you can go and gather online to, get a feel for what the business is and does. Then if we really want to jump into bed, I'll typically go and visit them, because we only need, it's not like we need hundreds of companies. We might need 15 of the best solar installation companies in the country. That's it. That's the UK done for us, So I'm only looking for, the real sort of high-end operations. So then we'll check if all the information's real and true. Do the directors own the companies they say they do? Are they like in holding company? All that sort of stuff. And then we'll mystery shop. And that's the one that a lot of people don't do. So I mystery shop, and I have a mystery shopper name that I'm not going to tell you, but I have a pseudo name.
Does it fit? Does it fit into your midlife crisis, or is it like?
Yeah, it might actually do. Yeah.
Like Brad Thunderbolt or something, or
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, Mac Power. I got it off a hairdryer. Yeah, so I love that Simpsons episode.
That's a good reference.
Then I'll mystery shop all of these companies. Simply fill in the contact form, and then we've got we use yay.com to sort of cycle through mobile numbers and that, and we can see the call logs, etc., for each number. So I'll spin up a number. Say I'm doing a solar mystery shop. I'll spin up a number for a couple of weeks, and then I'll put that number into their site. That diverts through to my mobile, and then I'll see how many times they call it over a week period. because I can look back at the call logs. I know that number I put into that company's contact form, and then I'll feed that back in a review session to the partners to go, well, look, you said you dial in 15 minutes. First dial took 35 minutes. You only dialed once that day. So, someone on your sales team's telling porkies. So we really sort of manage their success with our leads as much as we can as well. And we'll mystery shop continually. We try and do it every couple of months. Just to see if they're hitting the sweet spot. So yeah, once we've mystery shopped them, we're then sort of happy to onboard them as a partner. There's other so in solar, for example, we want them to be MCS certified, have their NIC, insurance, all the bits, HIES. I'm learning all these acronyms of the solar world. So all of this stuff that basically makes them a proper installer, as I'd say. We check all of that, and then we're happy to onboard them, so that we know when we introduce a customer from our website to their business, we know they're going to get served well, which goes back to the starting point of serving that customer first.
I feel like fucking crying. Honestly, this is absolutely perfect. Someone that takes this shit as seriously as I do, and I think that is brilliant. That is exactly what every lead generator should be doing.
Yeah.
Do you like that? And that's the point, is what you're actually doing is looking after someone else. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
It's like sending your kid to a nursery. You find out about the nursery. You want to know everything about it so that nothing bad happens. This is the point. You're looking after the consumer. And that, I think, is the beginning of, like, taking it that seriously is the beginning of the brand, is like, because they're going to know that, like, every person that has the experience with you then has a good experience with the person you've introduced them to, because you've done all that due diligence. You've made sure that's going to happen. So for any lead generator listening to this, that is what you need to do when you're working with new clients. Obviously, where it's big brands, so let's say, I don't know, you're about to work with British Gas, it's going to be slightly different. But what we're talking about is SMEs, that you might not have heard of, that are then going to be buying the leads that you're going to be sending them. But yeah, that was...
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I've been there. We've all had to make ends meet, and I completely get that. But making ends meet is so short term, and it's always ends in just bad experiences. Lead buyers not paying you, or you're getting a complaint from a customer that something's happened, or they've been felt like they've been hard sold to, and all of this stuff that you just don't want happening, and you don't want, my moral compass can't handle it. So I'm like, right, let's not do that anymore, and do this due diligence process properly.
Yeah, 100%.
So I just want to clarify one thing to people listening, and we've sort of covered this throughout, but just in this particular section. It's this idea of, well, put it this way, I've spoken to lead generators before, and they say, yeah, I've built a brand. And then you actually look into what they've built, and it's what Simon affectionately refers to as winky wanky brands. By that, we mean it's a name and a landing page, and basically that's it. So at what point would you say is almost like, does the brand become a proper brand, a brand, for want of a better word? Like, what do people listening need to do to get to that point where it's like, it's not just a landing page, it's more than that?
Yeah. So if you're a good indicator of it is if you're able to generate your own Trustpilot reviews. So for me, if we've served the customer well enough that not only will they give the lead buyer or the partner a review, they'll actually give the introductory service a review, then we've served them well. So again, go back to Expedia or booking.com. They have their own reviews, but then they have the reviews of the hotels, and they have so it's like you're getting the lead the end sort of provider and the introducer both getting reviews. That's sort of where where I see that you're then, getting to that point of being a brand. But to get there, you have to, what I do when I first go into a market, so I went, into solar recently, is I spent some money on throwing traffic at a non-branded page to figure out what the hell someone actually wanted. So we looked at the market, looked at what other people were doing. So like no upfront costs, 0% finance, location specific campaigns, calculator, grants, blah blah blah. There's like loads of different angles to go at it. And then we just put a question on a form. So it literally went through to a really, really stupidly simple like type form. And it just said, what are you looking for? And I think there was 3 options, which was online quote, energy bills savings calculator. It was better worded than that, but or find an installer. And we then looked at the results of that and figured out and then we had follow-up questions. If they, clicked one, we would then follow up with another one. So it basically gave us some data to go, right, this is what the market wants. So if we're throwing traffic with this hook, that's what they want. If we send it with this hook and offer, that's what they want. So we started to work out, what consumers want, how we can serve them. So we built solar savings calculator based on not the National Energy Trust, some energy trust. I can't off the top of my head remember what one it is now, but off the, the real guideline figures to give them accurate savings rather than, anything based on, a salesman coming around your house and going, oh yeah, love, you'll save £1,000 a month. Well, my energy bill's only 300 quid. So, so it actually works on, real figures. None of this sort of,
hocus pocus.
Yeah, exactly. Which is so easy to do, and it royally, and I hope I can swear on this podcast, but it royally fucks me off when I see lead generators just spewing out bullshit on their forms. I'd get really wound up about it, especially when there's, the things of the Consumer Duty Act, when in regulated spaces, and you've still got people saying free online assessment. No, it's not. It's a type form that does nothing more than merely introduce you to a broker, but no, it's a free online mortgage assessment apparently. Right, yeah, good one. So I just build the things that I say I'm going to build. If I say that you're going to get a calculation, you'll get a calculation. If you're going to get a comparison, you'll get a comparison. Where there is muddy water, and I'm sure people will go on Money Saving Advisors and go, well, you say you're going to give us a free quote. There are advised products that, as a lead generator, we do not have permissions to give someone a quote. Therefore, our introductory service will get them a quote, but you have to take advice to get that. There's non-advised routes and advised routes with, life insurance, for example, or with secured loans, where you have to take advice before you can, get a personalized quote, because you have to go through a fact find, etc. So there's really, there's no way of building an online journey as a lead generator unless you've got your own FCA permission. So anyway, tangent. But the point is just, I think where you switch over to becoming a brand is where you give the consumer what they want, and you're able to progress them to the next stage, and they're happy to progress to the next stage, and that you've done that in a way that you're you're able to hang your hat on and be proud of. Once you've done that, I think you're well on the way to building a brand. And this isn't going to be a brand that's going to have high street shops or be Nike or anything, but it is a brand that people will know, like, and trust. So they will go, I came through Look for Solar because they offer the £250 satisfaction guarantee. So no one else is doing that at the moment. Whereas what I'm, with the Look for Solar brand is, I'm saying, look, if you come through our site, we've introduced you to someone, they come out and install it, and you're not happy with the installation, we'll give you 250 quid. So that's our guarantee that, we've done our due diligence, we've done, and it's just a proper business. So putting those guarantees in place puts, my money where my mouth is, and goes, well, look, I know you're going to get a good service from this. So that's how we're sort of, building that like trust with putting some money down on it as well.
That's perfect. I think as well, how would I describe it? It's maybe in the ways you've said, but also if you start getting like word of mouth and organic traffic, I think if you start getting word of mouth, so people start referring you and you don't know where that's come from. In B2B, they call it dark social, right? Like you don't actually know what's influencing it. And if you tracked it, you just see visits directly to your site. And so the big thing in B2B, they go, you start putting more money into Google, but in reality, it's not. It's just because they search your name and it happened on your site. But what most lead generators do, and I think it was the guy called the Godfather of Lead Gen coined this word, and he did it while we were on a podcast and a live one, is he said most lead generators are all doing advertising arbitrage. So basically, they just have an ad that someone else is paying for, but they're too like removed to understand it, and all they're doing is like fueling some weird brand, but for this one. And the point is that if you are going to build a brand, you've got to remove yourself from advertising arbitrage. You have to become the owner, exactly like you've said with putting money where your mouth is, of that relationship. And the thing that person remembers, that it becomes you that they refer. They like you said, Expedia, when you go and book a hotel in Barcelona, you go there, you go and stay at the Arts Tower or whatever, they remember that, but the thing that they refer to their friends is they say, oh yeah, I found it on Expedia. So the idea is they go, oh, I got the deal on lookforsolar.co.uk, if that's right. I wrote it down. Yeah, that's right, with a number 4. And I think that's the point that you really start becoming a brand, because the person who is a lead in the general sense of the word, it's your relationships with them, they're the ones that have found value in what you do. And just in reference to something else that you said, and this is a study that was done years ago, but it was carried out again. I think it was originally done in something like 2007. Someone did it again recently. The biggest impact on advertising ROI by far, it was 12 times more impactful than anything else, was the size of your brand in the vertical that you're in. So when you're a lead generator running advertising arbitrage, you're not competing against all the other lead generators. You're competing against all the brands that pay sweet FA to get the same traffic you do, because everybody knows who they are. So your entire aim, if you're relying on paid traffic, should be to get that traffic as low cost as you can, which you can only do by building a brand. It's what everyone misses. And it's why so many lead generators are like fly by night, and they'll go in one vertical and drop out because it doesn't work anymore. They struggle so much. Yes, you could do like CRO tactics, the color of a button, how you lay out the landing page. Your ad obviously all makes a difference, but the number one most impactful thing by a huge margin is the size of your brand in that vertical, which is why it's great to niche down and build a brand.
Yeah, I think that you mentioned a good point there about you can pull out all the CRO tricks you want, and we've got a good few, but you just know if a brand is advertising and you're up against them in the ads, their conversion rate is going to be so much better than yours for the same CPC, because they've got brand power. It's like we're in some of the most competitive spaces, loans, finance, insurance, etc. And some of our clicks are like 35, 45 quid a click, and even when our conversion rates are 45, 50%, it's still horrendous lead price. But you just know if they go into a really big brand, people just trust them intrinsically, and you can pull some of that trust, by showing their brand on your site as well, if you're allowed to do that. Most insurers will turn a blind eye to it because they're, they're ultimately getting the policy. But so you can sort of have association trust sort of flown across to your site. But I think building a brand on your own, and the way that you can show that, obviously in the SERPs is building up your own Trustpilot reviews, or wherever you're going to house your reviews, so that you get the review status in the SERPs as well. That's just going to help so much on your click-through rate. And then because they've already seen that 5-star rating on the SERP, they trust you then more on the landing page, and it just flows through. So it's that part is so critical, and it takes time. It takes time and effort to build up reviews. We won't have a single one when we launch Look for Solar tomorrow. But over the coming weeks and months, we'll reach out to every single person that's been on that site. We'll call each one of those ourselves, and ask for honest feedback, and start building them up and tweak the journey based on their feedback. So that's what getting in and doing the hustle of the brand building is really about.
You should document it, like as in start filming it, so you can, like, I don't know, in a year or 2 years, if Look for Solar takes off, you can go like, check out this journey we went on. This is how you do it. Yeah,
no, it's a good. It's one that I toyed with last night as I was setting up for today, actually, and I thought, we should document every single stage and how we built it and what we're doing, and it would make it'd make great content for the YouTube channel that hopefully will be launching next year as well. So just getting into all of that personal branding element as well, which is all the things brand at the moment. That's the focus, rather than as you say, ad arbitrage, which is what we've been doing for the first few years of existence.
Lawrence, I want to just bring this back to the title of the podcast. It was why lead generators should build their own brand. I think we've covered that in depth, and we've set out lots of reasons, and there's been loads of value in it. But what I want to end with is I always sort of say there's a lead generator listening to this podcast, and he's been convinced, he's ready to do it. If you can you give us one or two, or however many tips you want, that they can use, take away, and remember? This will be the thing they remember at the end of the show before they start building their brand.
Stay away from solar. No,
yeah, exactly. So I always think, like, the first thing is figure out your niche. So the questions to ask yourself: what isn't going to change anytime soon? Like, what can I get into and is going to be a staple diet for years to come? What are you always going to need? You're always going to need, a haircut, is what I say. So, but it's not, go out and build a niche of haircut, but you get, I stretch point, tomato point. So, and then think about what can be replicated by, having multiple companies or different locations. Can the same thing be directly applied to the US as the UK, to Australia, and then where can we build out the same brand there? So that's what I've got lookforsolar.com as well. Hey, so that's something that we'll be doing in the US. So it's like, where can you get into a niche that you can replicate out and scale? And is there enough search volume, interest? What are the trends? Is it going to be worth doing, or is it so super niche that you just can't scale it? So that's what I'd really look for first, and then just really think about serving that customer. Understand the market, like what mystery shop, find out what happens in the market. So I didn't know about this in solar, that this home survey happens. Then there's, some companies offer an independent survey as well. So they have a third party come out that, inspects the roof and says, that looks like the right product for, your installation, sort of signs it off. And then there's, all these different certificates that you get after, energy ratings, etc. So I just had to really go into the market to really understand the entire process. So that's what you need. You need to get under the hood. How does the money wheel spin in the market as well? You know, what customer acquisition cost can the market withstand? You know, is there and can you deliver a customer within that sort of performance envelope? So that's just going to give you a really good starting base to go, yeah, this is a go or no go for launch.
That's brilliant. I think there's absolutely so much in there for people listening. So Lawrence, thank you so much for saying you've been a fantastic guest. I think it's the first guest we've had that has made Simon want to cry through someone agreeing with him. So we've ticked that box 114 episodes in. But yeah, it's been absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah,
it's been my pleasure. Yeah,
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the B2C Lead Generation podcast. Be sure to hit subscribe to hear more from those at the very cutting edge of the lead gen world.